Oh, there your face pops up. There you go. I love it. All right, guys, we are international right now. We're now Zoom just came in, so we are now Facebook Live, and my audio has to be turned down. Audio's up, music is not.
Music down.
There we go. We're down. Okay, it's awesome. You know, I opened the show, guys, with what am I grateful for? I'm grateful for the fact that you're in front of me, that I see you. But also, in a more serious note, I am very grateful for one more day and being able to experience one more day. And I'm going to share a brief story with you that is optimistic, but it'll sound a little bit emotional. As you know, we had a hailstorm recently. So I called out the adjusters. Come on out, get on my roof, check it out, right? Started a great relationship with one of the people from Severe Weather Roofing. His name is Billy. And Billy is a second career guy. He was a psychologist, couldn't handle it anymore, wanted to get out of the business, right? But then we started talking about sports psychology and what I do. And he got intrigued and excited. Said, hey man, I want to connect with you. So a couple days go by, we visit with Billy at the house with his counterpart to get all the roofing stuff squared away. I made a call on Wednesday to follow up and discovered from a family member who answered his cell phone that he died.
Oh my goodness.
Exactly, my response. Sudden, everybody, unexpected. Talk about grateful for every day.
Yes.
I have been thinking about him since then, about what can I do better? What can I do to cherish every single moment, every day? So it seemed appropriate, gentlemen. I scheduled this show with you guys before this happened. It seems like the culmination of events is directing us towards this. This show had to be faith in the locker room. So I am grateful for sun in my face, smelling the air. I ask you both, starting with Hosea, what are you grateful for?
You know, I am grateful for every day of life, grateful for my family, grateful for the opportunity to share the gospel of Jesus Christ, not only in my church that I pastor, but also at work. I'm the chaplain and programs coordinator here at the sheriff's department. It's funny that you mentioned the death of the person that you just met. The guy that does the commissary for us, I've known him for 25 years. He was here on Wednesday. We were talking. The next day, Thursday, he didn't show up for work, and he died Wednesday. Heart attack. He went into 7-Eleven, went to his truck, looked like the police officer that called me to say that he had passed away. He looked as though he was asleep. He was there for 5 hours. People didn't think anything of it. But we're here today and going tomorrow. So I'm thankful for life and thankful for the opportunity to meet people like you.
There you go.
To share the gospel of Jesus Christ. I sense a sense of urgency, and I do believe that the Lord is on his way back quickly.
Well, Andy, it's your turn for gratitude.
Well, I hate to say my answer is going to be almost the same as his. There's only two hills that my wife and I talk about that we would climb and defend, and that is the hill of our faith and the hill of our family. I have been blessed to grow up in a nuclear family of only sisters, four, and as a parental unit to raise 3 girls. So that's all I know. Except just over a year ago, we were blessed with a first grandchild, and he is a boy.
Right.
So all of my hobby job stuff, not that my daughters didn't involve, but he's a very active young man and looking forward to the future that athletics and sports brings to him. His mother was an athlete. His aunt was an athlete. the blessing and the gratitude of having 3 daughters, and I'll explain it this way: 2 on earth and 1 in heaven. Sadly, we lost our 28-year-old daughter. We didn't really lose her. We know where she's at. And she died in her sleep 3 years ago last month. And she is part of every event that I do, and is very much a part of my real job. As Laurel knows, I have a hobby job that sometimes takes quite a few hours out of the day, the week, the month, and the year. And more people know me by that than by the real job, and then the ministry job. I have a wedding next weekend, which will be the 3rd in just over 3 weeks, for the pastor that does not serve a current congregation in that role. So they're my extended family. So the blessedness of interaction with my family, the opportunity to share the gospel through men's groups, through Bible study, through weddings, and sadly funerals. Those are the 2 things that are by far the most grateful issues in my life.
Thank you both for sharing that, and it's continuing to be a setup for the energy that has pushed us to this day, because today is the National Suicide Awareness Day. I am part of a group called Movember, which celebrates men and their dealings with prostate cancer, mental illness, and suicide. So I want to bring that to our attention. And then tomorrow, as we all should know, if we don't, is September 11th, where we are recognizing the departure of many souls on that day through events that were tragic, and we seem to be continually reflecting on those tragedies, both domestically and internationally. But one of the things I do every week is share a mindset moment to set up the week's show. And this week, the mindset moment quote was this: "Football doesn't define me. My faith is the #1 thing in my life." So says Russell Wilson, quarterback for the Seattle Seahawks. Russell has been a faith-based participant in this world for a long, long time prior to his being successful at the professional level of football. But that quote lends itself to something I share every week on the show about being prepared, because it's your preparation that sets the stage for your success. So preparation could, in today's show, be part of demonstration of your faith, the use of prayer in that demonstration, where you showcase your faith-based beliefs and references, because we're going to talk about that as well. So my first question for you guys, and I'll start with Andy, and that is about how does your faith motivate you to deliver the best outcomes from you?
My faith does that in such that whatever I do, I want it to be the best I can do, so that people take notice and a relationship can begin. And that relationship then leads itself to ultimately discussions about Jesus Christ and about the other individual's faith. It starts as relationship. And, we hear the argument all the time, oh, it's religion, your religion. No, as a Christian, no, it's not religion, it's relationship. And so the big issue for me is, how can I reach people? So if I do a terrible job in my hobby job or in my real job, people are going to go, yeah, who the heck is he? He's not anybody that I want to deal with. But if you seek excellence in that so that they draw attention, now you all of a sudden have a platform in which to be able to share your faith. And it's worked out. You expect that from the pastor or the pastor who's not serving a congregation. You don't expect that from the guy helping you get college scholarships or the guy that's announcing your athletic event.
And you do
excellence allows you to do that.
And you do that eloquently in announcing athletic events. And I also must say, for the benefit of our audience, Andy McClure is the most unobtrusive faith leader I've ever met. Until you actually start listening to the words he says to you, you don't know that he's talking to you about his faith and spirituality. He is so good at just making it part of the conversation and not insulting you as to being overwhelmed with where that faith came from. I have to compliment you on that, because you're doing such a great job with that. So, Hosea, your faith motivates you in what way, and how do you deliver that to the outcomes that you create?
Well, I do believe this, that all that we do, according to Scripture, we do for the glory of God. We do to bring glory and honor to God. I believe that excellence honors God and inspires people. And so when we do whatever we do it in an excellent way. And when you do things in an excellent way, as Andy said, it draws attention to a person, because a lot of people are mediocre in whatever they do, or they do a terrible job, or a bad job. But if we do, and if we excel in it, then it draws attention to our work. Therefore, we can, as Andy so eloquently said, we can then point people to Christ. Why do you do what you do? I do it for the glory of God. It opens the opportunity for us to start a conversation about faith. And for a pastor, for a preacher, for any Christian for that matter, it is our job to, populate heaven and to depopulate hell. And so we're trying in every way to introduce people to the person who can change their lives, not only presently, but we're talking about for eternity. So when we talk about outcomes, we must do it in an excellent way.
I'm going to steal your line. Depopulate hell.
That's right. Depopulate hell.
And you set up so grateful. I'm grateful for the setup, because we're talking about two audiences in today's show. One is the professional athlete audience and the collegiate athlete audience, and with no gender separation. This is men and women. Even though we might reference in our comments more the major sport, football, baseball, but this is not gender specific. So what are the different, and for the benefit of our audience, Hosea has been an athlete himself. He's got sons who are athletes. Andy, you're around athletes all the time. We all have had our vistas of being an athlete. So I'm on the downward side of being an athlete. My mind isn't, my body is.
Yeah.
But is there a difference in the way you see faith demonstrated between a college athlete arena and the pro athlete arena, and should there be? Jose, I'll start with you first.
I don't think there should be. I do think that any person, especially in the United States, the First Amendment right, we have the right to worship God in any workplace or workspace. Even in jail, I work for the Federal Sheriff's Department, and in jail, as a chaplain, it is my responsibility to protect the First Amendment rights of inmates to worship God, wherever God is, or whatever their faith is. And so I think that as athletes, we have the right to really, people are looking for answers to problems. They're looking for answers to the situations that they're in. And when we display and show our faith in God, and coupled with the way that we conduct ourselves, it really sparks interest. And I think that whether you're on the pro level or the collegiate level, you have the right, and I think the responsibility from God to show your faith in the locker room.
Andy, what are your thoughts about what you've seen? Now, you've been to the Olympics recently. That's a different venue. You've seen high school, college, pros, as have I. What differences, if any, are there that you see it, and should there be?
What always amazes me is people will look at a collegiate athlete and they have an adult body, You're 6'8", 235 pounds. Oh man, look at them. But you get them off the court, and they're a knucklehead 19-year-old.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that derogatory, because they're just a 19-year-old or a 20-year-old, and we think, oh, they're on the floor, they're competing, or they're on the turf or the grass, and they're competing, and you're thinking they're almost idolized. Well, many are. And it's like, oh, they're untouchable. They're untouchable. And I see the same thing with adults who are wealthy. They have a lot of money in their pocket and a lot of money in the bank, and we go, oh, they're untouchable. They're untouchable. They've got all the money they need. What do I need to share my faith with them for? Well, because we all need to know Jesus. We all need to be able to express that relationship. So on the pro and the college level, we have to get past ourselves in worrying that they are this statue of great humanity and forget they're still mind, body, and spirit that needs to know the Creator.
Right.
We get so delusioned of they don't need this, they have it all together because they can shoot the 30-foot jump shot. Yeah, but someday that 30-foot jump shot's going to disappear.
And Andy,
and we're not on the court anymore.
And Andy, hitting the 30-foot jump shot doesn't preclude the fact that there can be a disturbance in the faith outside of that court.
Exactly. Because keep in mind, there's a young man that I had in college a few years ago, and I see his stuff on social media all the time, and he's constantly referencing a friend of his that passed away. And he's now 25, 26 years old, and that's still an issue for him. Well, that had nothing to do with basketball, if that friend died or was killed. He still needs to know the peace of God. He still needs to understand that there is a Creator that wants the best for him on the court or off the court. It doesn't matter. And the life that we live as athletes or former athletes is far more off the court than it is on the court. You still have to go to the gas station, you still got to go to the grocery store, you still got to go, pay your bills and do what you do. And so we see them in glimpses as athletes, college or pro.
So Jose,
they're human at the core level.
Jose, I'm going to give you
be able to snap that off better than me.
Jose, I'm going to ask you to look at that same question from a different light, and I'm going to use the Russell Wilson quote, because too often football doesn't define me, and that's a strong statement to make. And when you look at Russell Wilson, his performance would give you some confidence in that's truth to him, and that it's his faith, right? But at the same time, I know Russell Wilson, and I know that there's truth with that statement. And yet, I have been in locker rooms with athletes who go through the pump their chest, wear the crucifix, wear an emblem of their faith, and they are nowhere near faith-based than the doorknob. And yet, they're going through the motions of that. So what are the differences that, with that understanding, can we point out to people about examining faith-based demonstrations and really looking at them critically?
Yes, I think people go through the emotions without the emotions. I mean, there's nothing associated. When I got saved, something happened to me. Something internally happened to me. My mind changed, my heart changed, everything about me changed. And I think there are three areas of a person's life that need to be dealt with. And first of all, there's your public life, and that's where everybody sees you. Everybody sees you making the sign of the cross or wearing your crucifix or doing whatever. And then there's your personal life where your close friends and your relatives see who you are when you're not in public. And then there's your private life, when you're by yourself, when there's nobody looking, it's just you and God. Who are you then? Are you still the same person? And everyone has internal struggles. Everyone has quote-unquote demons that we must deal with. and habits that we need to break. So we really, the Bible tells us that a man ought to examine himself to see whether he is of the faith or not. And so that is really the key issue, because we get use a crucifix or the sign of the cross or your Bible or whatever as some kind of good luck charm. That is not what faith in God is about. It is about, as we said earlier, a personal relationship with the true and living God. And whether I live or die, or whether I play this game or not, because, Russell Wilson realizes that he's not going to be able to play football all of his life, and when football is over, who are you and what do you have?
Yeah.
You need to have a relationship with the true and living God. You need to still have your family and your children and the people who mean the most to you. And so you cannot let football define you. You cannot let any of those things define you. What defines you is, my father would say to me, where are you, boy? I'm from Louisiana, so my dad was from. Where are you, boy? So we need to determine who we really are, what will we stand for, what are we willing to die for. In the words of the eloquent Martin Luther King Jr., if a man has not found something in life that he's willing to die for, then his life is really not worth living at all.
You bring up one of my favorite icons, and it goes without saying that Martin Luther King was a man of God, a faith-based human being that walked a righteous path, and yet many would question him because of where they come from, and have questioned him, and as a result of that, died at the hands of those who questioned him. Now, that being said, one of the most meaningful things that he had said was about a person who was a street sweeper. If you are a street sweeper and you are a man of excellence, striving for a righteous path, you will be a street sweeper to the best of your ability, regardless of what others may say of you. And so for me, our topic for today is about being that street sweeper in the end zone. Is that end zone a place for everybody of faith to reside without hesitation, without condemnation for the differences? Today is one of the days of Rosh Hashanah. I'm Jewish, so Lashana Tova to all of those out there. Be blessed and have a good year. But it's also the time prior to the Day of Atonement, which is Yom Kippur, which is in a few days. So whatever the words are, the phrases are you a person of a righteous means, that you are taking the first step in your faith to whatever in a way that is going to stand the test of time? Because you're not going to be in football forever. You're not going to be in basketball forever. So for me, the next question is about that righteous path. And how do I deal with the Tim Tebow-esque in the locker room versus Abdullah, who's on his praying rug, even if he's even allowed to put the praying rug in the locker room, because I've had that experience. And so I'm wondering, are we really righteous enough to honor the path of any faith? In the end zone, in the locker room, and because I've had these conversations with coaches, because they've asked me at the loss of any strategy, what do I do with the young man who's been condemned by his teammates at pregame locker room activity where he's crossing himself? And they're going, well, that's a distraction. Why are you doing that? So I'm asking you guys, and I'll start with Hosea first, is what do we say to those players? What do we say to those coaches? Because there seems to be a certain way that's accepted. Tim Tebow kneeling is different than some other people kneeling on the sideline. Why is that different if we're truly righteous?
I don't think it should be a difference. So the question is, what do we say? I think the coaching staff has to set the tone and the culture. So we're gonna be accepting of every faith, every belief system, and if that is the way that you prepare for a game, if you're asking for protection for yourself and for your teammates, and even for the other team, because football, basketball, all of these sports can be, especially football, a contact sport, and we're asking God to keep us safe. And I think you should be able to express your faith. As long as it, you say in jail, you can express your faith as long as it does not cause any safety and security issues. I once had a guy who wanted to slaughter a goat in his cell. No, that ain't gonna happen. So as long as the person is being peaceful, he's praying, he can have his prayer up, he's praying, it's on the cross, if it's done in a way, and it's done in good taste, what is the problem? I don't see the problem.
Andy, you've been, like I just said, you came back from the Olympics, the Summer Olympics, the 2020 and 2021. You were in all different kinds of cultural settings, and you know the differences. You've seen the differences. What do you say to the coaches and the players when they see the differences and are challenged?
I'm going to, again, reiterate, I said much what I would say, but let's look at this at the professional and the collegiate level. The locker room setting should be set by the coaching staff. If you're in a university and the athletic director is setting that tone, but it's never there, it's pointless. If the president of the university is setting that tone, but is never there, it's pointless. It's got to be the intimate group that is together on a daily basis, in the good and the bad, at the meals, at whatever travel time. They're going to set the tone. And for me personally, yeah, I've worked with those many times that are of different faiths than my own. I don't want to suppress them. Do I want them all to come to Jesus? Yes. But I'm not going to suppress them. I'm hoping my actions, me being Jesus in the flesh, is going to influence them to go, what is different? Why do you say those things? Why do you act that way? Why do you express yourself? And I'll say, because ultimately it is Jesus who died for me, and I want to be that servant. I'll share this with you. I didn't learn this until a couple of years ago. But the name McClure, my last name, EMC is son of. McClure means servant. So I am the son of the servant. So as a child of God, my last name fits perfectly. And so it ultimately comes down to the tone should be set by the group that is involved. And if the coach has to do some, unique yoga moves to make it work for the best locker room, that's what he's going to do, or she's going to do. You're going to accept the Jewish athlete. You're going to accept the Christian athlete. You're going to accept the Muslim athlete. You're going to accept whatever, new flavor of the month comes up religiosity-wise, and figure out a way to do that. And if you have to go to the four corners of the locker room to express your faith for a few minutes before a ball game, I'm going to say, then that's what you have to do.
Well, and you're bringing up a good point that I'll lead my comments with by saying this. Your silence is deafening. If you don't tell me, I don't know. If you have a degree of expression that is greater than the peer next to you, then so be it. But your peer deserves the right to not be silent, because that silence is deafening. So when we have the intersection between the differences, whether it's a difference in faiths, a difference in food, whatever those differences are, appreciating them brings us an intersection that can be, and I've shown this to coaches, more powerful as a motivator than anything you're going to say at a team meeting. Allow the athletes to intersect with one another about how they can relate. For example, this is Yom Kippur. Well, there's certain elements of this that has to do with rising again, celebrating the goodness of what has gone on in the time prior. That could be universal. So what I'm gearing up to here is the mental performance that I do. I try to intersect the differences so that there is no energy left misplaced. It's all going towards a common level of understanding. So my question, Jose, is for you is we've got a lot of adversity right now, right? The pandemic is like an excuse to be faith-based and come out into the public and really be exulting in what we're saying. So what degree of adversity is necessary to allow for prayer and faith-based activities to prosper for someone? Is it?
I mean, do we even need adversity in order to pray, in order to speak to God?
No.
No, we don't necessarily need adversity, but sometimes God will send adversity so that you will know and understand that He alone is God. Because sometimes we can become secular humans. We have the solution to our own problems. We don't need God. But that is not the case. We need God in every area of our lives. And I do think adversity does play a part in when one seeks God. We talk about 9/11, the 20th anniversary coming up. I remember when this happened distinctly that day, and the next Sunday the church was packed. I mean, there was hardly any room there. And so I think adversity has a way of driving us toward God. And not only that, but adversity is universal. Everybody gets some. There's a passage in the book of Job that says, trouble is like the dust. It's everywhere.
Yeah.
Dust is everywhere. And so it's a universal thing, but it's how do you handle adversity? How do you handle adversity? Some people go to drugs and alcohol. Some people do all kinds of craziness because of a little bit of adversity in their lives. So as a Christian man or woman, when you face adversity, how are you going to deal with it? And when you deal with it, you're setting an example where people are always watching you, and not only how you handle the good times, but how do you handle the rough patches in life? And so really, adversity is a good thing. Because in my opinion, most of the time, it drives us toward God. Sometimes it drives you away from God because you just don't know what to do. As I said, I work in a jail and the chaplain here, and I get a lot of, types. Type is a inmate message form. And I get a lot of inmate message forms that say to me, chaplain, I want to change. I just don't know how. And so that provides, and let me tell you, when you're in jail, there's adversity in here. You are in an adverse situation. And many times people want to pull on faith when they're here. And it provides an opportunity. So adversity provides an opportunity. You go into, especially as a pastor, people go into divorce, if there's unfortunately a death in the family or whatever, you're in an adverse situation. It's a time then to show the love of Christ.
Andy, I'm going to ask you to take a twist on this a little bit. Why do we need adversity to maintain the consistent delivery of a righteous path, of a faith-based behavior set? Does it, it's there, and Jose, you're absolutely right. Adversity is a draw, it brings it out. But if we're striving for excellence, should we have to have it to do that?
I would say it comes down to a simple three-letter word, and that's called ego. Because when everything's going well, I'm the guy.
Yeah, exactly.
I did it. I went and did this, and I went and did this, and I continue to do this. But when adversity comes, oh God, you got to step into my life. And so Hosea made a comment about how after 9/11, church attendance was huge. And if you look at it historically in this country over the last 100 years, that is always the way it is. You have a major adversity issue. You have a major problem. You have a big thing happening. And all of a sudden the churches get flooded with people, and now the problem goes away, and now people start to be themselves again, and attendance drops down. Why? Oh, we got a handle on it, God. Thanks for fixing that on Tuesday, but I got it covered now. And so, why can't we, as people of faith, whatever faith we are, not only have that faith connection with God in the bad times, but in the good times? Hosea, again, he talked about giving God the glory. Well, how often do we share gratitude? Hey, God, thank you for giving me another morning. Thank you for the grandchild that was just birthed into our family. Thank you for the bonus I just received from my job that I hadn't had for 5 years. Why can't we do those and be grateful and thankful? It's because we are sinful, egotistical individuals. And that's the bottom line issue. We think when it's good, it's me. It's my actions. When it's bad, now I need God. No, we need to be, thankful in those moments of thanks to continue that relationship. Because if we only take God and put him in a box and set him up on the shelf to be pulled down only when we have a national catastrophe, then we are puppeting God.
No.
We want him to dance when we want him to dance, versus being there and saying, Lord, thank you for this. My family, my home, my job, that the repair guy showed up when he said he was going to. That 10 to 12 window actually was at 10:20 he got here. He didn't show up at 2:30. And so I think because of our sinful, egotistical nature of who we are, that we don't reach to the Lord even in those moments of gratitude and thanksgiving.
And Andy and Jose, I want to ask you to think about this. Consistent courage for caring. Consistent courage for caring, which means even in good times, I have an expectation to be courageous in my caring, so that when I see athletes congregate in an end zone and take a knee to give thanks, to demonstrate their faith, that also was a gathering of players who included their Muslim teammates, their Jewish teammates. And if they chose not to show up in the end zone with them, that's their choice. But they had the courage to care consistently, including them in that. So that we have expectations that are routinely pushing the envelope. I talk about coaches striving for excellence, and many coaches have no clue what that really means. Because it's taking the excellent athlete, the Russell Wilson, and I've had this conversation. You are only as good as the last moment you were great. You have that next step to take to prove that you are as good or better. But we don't have the mindset to think about consistent courage for caring, first with ourselves, and then sharing that expectation to others to be great. Because you know what? We may not have had 9/11 if we would have had consistent courage for caring and sharing our faith globally. It would have touched so many people that they wouldn't have felt disenfranchised, marginalized to a point that they drove a jet airliner into the Twin Towers. I have no proof of that other than my faith. My faith in human beings, that they would have done the right thing if given the chance to consistently have the courage to care. So I'm asking you to make your comments about that consistency, even in the good times that we are constantly challenging our faith within ourselves to go the next step and encourage everybody to be included. Let's say, what do you think about that?
I think that's a great
When my daughter passed 3 years ago, my oldest, and she actually attended the high school that Noel and I met at, and in that moment of adversity, in that moment of loss, people showed up and showed up and showed up, and showed up at our house. I never had my kitchen and my bathrooms cleaned more in that. I mean, 3 or 4 times a day. People were coming over and folding our laundry. I was wanting to just pull stuff out of the drawers and make a pile to give people something to do, right? And so people just showed up. They had the courage to step into a situation they were not aware of. I don't know what I'm going into, but God has called me to go and just be there to help these people in adversity. Well, we think of that, but do we also think about it in those celebratory moments? Can we do that when the neighbor has a new baby? Can we do that in the athletic setting that Billy or Susie ends up passing classes that we know they struggled with? So how do we show up? Very simple. You can just walk in, throw an arm over the shoulder, give them a hug and say, I'm proud of you. Way to go. Good job. And people will look at that like, what the heck? It's like, no, I'm being Jesus in the flesh. I am being in relationship with you, and I want to celebrate with you when you have those good moments. I'm going to take the courage. I know one of the epistles talks about there is no fear in love. Well, if we're truly loving somebody, we shouldn't be fearful. Are we afraid to tell our spouse, I love you, dear? Our children, I love you? No. So there should be no fear in reaching out to that neighbor, reaching out to the guy that's in the locker room next to us, in the good times and the bad times. And when you do it both, guess what? You're developing a relationship that other individual is going to go, you know what? I trust them. They're not going to judge me. They're going to love me and care me on the good things and on the adverse issues. Is just show up in people's lives.
Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree with that. But we do have to have the courage to do so. You know, we grew up in a different time. I grew up in Louisiana, and in my neighborhood, everyone cared about everyone. And you could not, I could hardly do anything wrong because my neighbors were looking and watching, and they would report to my parents. I saw him doing whatever, and he had no business. And they would even spank you during that time period, and then tell your mom, and then you got another spanking. But they had the courage to care for each other. As a matter of fact, we call most of the people in our neighborhood aunt or uncle. They were not even related to us, but they cared about us so much that we call them aunt and uncle. But we live in a different time now where you can't correct another person's child, you know, or they're upset with you, or are you going to say something about my kid? But even in that regard, we still have the responsibility to care, and we have to have the courage to care for people. I think the greatest, listen, Jesus died for people. So God cares a great deal about people. He made us in his own image and likeness, which means that he loves us and he cares about them. And I think that we need to have and display that same kind of courage to love people, to stop and take a moment. As a matter of fact, at our church, we did what we call fill the fridge at our local elementary school for the teachers' lounge. Because, you know, they're going through a rough time as well. And they have to deal with our kids. And so we just decided that we were going to buy some snacks, buy some soda, buy some water, buy whatever, and we're going to fill that fridge. And then we also, because they need to know that people care about them. They need to know that there's a church in their neighborhood, in their community, that is concerned about them. And then we just leave a little thing that says, if you need prayer, you can contact us and we will pray for you. People need solutions to problems. And I believe this, it doesn't matter what the question is, Jesus is the answer.
Gentlemen, we're getting close to the end of the show, and I want to ask you this question in two parts. One is share with us what you want our audience to take away from today in your comments. But before you give them that, talk about what your feelings are towards the strength of the sports world and the faith people have in that sport and the character of those athletes and motivating them to go to the next step, to get up for the next day, to fill someone's fridge, to have that courage. What role does that gathering of talented people have? And that could be drama, it could be, theater, but in my world it's sports. Sports has a huge influence on our public perception of what is good and righteous. And too often I have to fight the phoniness of the crucifix and the pounding your chest and pointing to the sky because it's not sincere. So I want to continue to promote faith in the locker room as it needs to be promoted. So give me your solution set to helping people identify the sincerity, the integrity in the demonstration of faith as you then finish by sharing what you want them to take away. Jose, please share.
Well, so in jail, I guess, this is where I live every day. We say, the person said that they have a particular faith. The law says that it must be a sincerely held belief. How do I know if this person is sincere in their belief system or not? I don't, except by their actions. I know that you're being sincere when I see you not just doing a cross or not just pointing up, but when you're not doing that, who are you then? So we have to look at people's actions to determine whether they are sincere or not. So I think that we have to give people the benefit of the doubt when we see that if he's making a sign of the cross, if he's pointing up, maybe that's his way. That's the only way he knows of expressing his gratitude for God or to God. It may not be as demonstrative as Tim Tebow. We have to be sincere. He's a sincere person. We believe what he believes, and he doesn't mind displaying it. There are other people who are quiet in their when they display their faith. So I just think that we have to give people the benefit of the doubt. And this is what I say to people. Hey, I noticed that you were pointing up and giving thanks to God. Tell me a little bit more about that. Give it up. So I think it's an opportunity then to introduce them to God. It may be just a gesture. That's all they know is this. But it gives us the opportunity to explain who God is and to help them explore their faith. Now, what did I say? What do I want people to gather from this? I would say, be sincere in your faith. Listen, we all need God. Every one of us, without exception. And I would say that we should, whether it's in the locker room, whether it's in the courtroom, the bathroom, it doesn't really matter what room you're in, but you need to have a sincere belief in the true and living God. And I think that I like that word courage, because I believe that God needs warriors. Not just on the football field, not just in athletics, but God needs warriors in our society. He needs warriors in the neighborhood. He needs warriors on our job. And what I mean by warriors, we need to be sincere in our display of faith. And we need to be men and women of integrity. People are looking for solutions. Who will lead us? Who? And my dad would always say, you be the one. I'm complaining about, Dad, there's no one who will do this. There's no one. Then he said, then you do it.
We have the same dad. Andy, what's your take on this?
as those around athletics and those who are athletes, I think there's a mindset that you got to keep set. And this is opposite of what Charles Barkley said 2 decades ago. I am not a role model. Well, here's the deal. You may not think you're a role model, but you do have a platform.
Yeah.
As a pro athlete, as a collegiate athlete, male, female, it doesn't matter, is can you make yourself available because of that platform to go speak at an elementary school? It doesn't have to be religious, it could just be on good citizenship. Can you go speak at a church in a Sunday school class? Can you go and organize a community event that raises funds or groceries to stock the local food bank? Because you want to have a platform. If you call somebody and say, "Hi, I'm Michael Jordan." Yeah, that Michael Jordan. And I would like to help you with this. Who is not going to jump out of their shoes going, "Yes, yes, you might be the 15th guy on the bench in the college basketball team." But that teacher doesn't know that. Hey, I play basketball at such and such school just up the road. I would love to share this topic or this topic or this topic with your school. Would you be interested in something like that? What's it cost you? You got to prepare a message, but you're going to use who you are as a platform, and that platform is going to get some kids to sit a little closer and lean in a little more to go, "I want to play college basketball. I'm going to listen to him." So is take that platform. That's what I do in my position at the scores table as the announcer, is develop relationships. They already like me for what I do. Now, listen to what I want to do and share with you to make you a better person or bring you to the foot of the cross. Second issue is, what do I take away from this? And that is, or what do I want people to take away from this? As Jose was saying, is that now I'm having one of those sometimers moments. Sometimes you remember, sometimes you don't, right? Is, what do I want people to take away from it is, we were created as a body. And you might be a ball player, and they might be a janitor, and somebody else is a school teacher, and somebody else is a doctor, is we need everybody.
Yes.
We are a body. You don't just have feet, and you just don't have hands, and you don't just have eyes. To make this whole thing we call our community, our neighborhood work, we all have to take the role for which we were wired. Some people don't want to accept that. But I'm not like you. I can't get up in front of people and talk. Well, you know what? You could be the organizer of this thing.
Yeah.
You could make all those contacts, and you're just as important, if not more so, because you spent days and weeks putting this together. I came in at the vote for 15 minutes. I get all the attention. I'm going to give you the glory and honor back and say, because of your faith, you did this so that people could hear the gospel. People could hear that message. And so do not accept that maybe you're not wired the same way as Hosea is and as I am, that do things in front of people on a regular basis. One of the best church people I ever dealt with in my life, I'll just mention her first name, Jan. She was the mover and shaker of everything in a large church that I served in Scottsdale, Arizona. Nobody knew it. She didn't want you to know it. But without her, we wouldn't have all the things that we did because of all the stuff she did behind the scenes. I still, to this day, I haven't worked with her for 25 years. Still friendly, still friends, but I haven't worked with her, and she's still an example in my life because she's part of the body, and she knows her role. And go and do. You can make a difference in ways I don't. Praise your efforts, and I know you give all the glory to God for what happens.
I'm grateful to both of you for the time you're spending with me today, and that it will carry on. The energy and commitment that you make to yourselves and others is one that moves without you even knowing it moves others. For me, it's about trust. but trust is only as good as the honesty that drives it. And that means that there's got to be actions, like you said, purposeful intent, as you both indicated. That if I'm going to trust you and have a belief that there's integrity in that trust, it's got to be purposeful. There's got to be some kind of productivity, some actions that you take, so that I then know that you are trustworthy. So trust isn't enough. Take the action. Yeah, you point to the sky, you have a crucifix on, but until you demonstrate it, I don't really know how sincere you are. So I'm so grateful that we've put the pieces together, using athletics and sports as our metaphor for today, about a really bigger issue about humanity. That the human being is a body that moves in many different ways and has a truth of their own. But until they take action, it's hard to know how trustworthy it really is. I'm asking for today's show that people believe and take away, how trustworthy are you? That I can hold you accountable and count on you to deliver when I've asked you to deliver. Even when times are good and not just when surrounded by adversity. Thank you so much to Andy McClure and to my friend through his lovely wife Janice, Hosea Cannon Jr. It's a great opportunity to meet you both. I will commit to you both today that I will not let time go by without connecting with you and staying connected. Next week, everybody, we're going to have a show with a wonderful person. Margaret Meek will be with me. She's going to talk about how to get high school kids prepared for that next academic level up, whether it's college, life, or just that next gig at Starbucks. Whatever it is that challenges you to be your best. We're going to talk to Margaret Meek and the From Nest to Wings Foundation. We're going to have a good time with her. So, gentlemen, thank you so much. Stick with me just a second as I cut us off air. We'll be right back with you, everybody. Have a great day. This is 360 Performance with Dr. Whiteman.